following case study examines two companies' transition from hierarchy-based bureaucratic control systems to self-managed teams. The first organization involves Zell Communications, a telecommunications manufacturing company in the U.S. The goal was to compete by being more adaptive and innovative, flatten the plan hierarchy, creating self-managed teams or peer groups of 10 to 15 people. Implementation involved gradual starting with a trial team, which proved successful. Within 8 months, the plant was reconfigured to run with 3 self-managed teams, the red, white, and blue teams. A VP acted as a coach or consultant to offer guidance and suggestions for team issues, team responsibilities, team management, procurement of materials, and work-related decisions. Issues involved lack of individual commitment and engagement, causing the team to create and enforce team rules. The second organization involves Stitchco, a textile plant in the UK. The goal of Stitchco was to increase flexibility and speed of manufacturing textiles. The proposed solution involved a teamwork system. Teams comprised of high, medium, and low performers, all paid a flat rate with bonuses based on team performance. This was done by an accounting system put in place to monitor the division's performance against external competitors. Organizational support was based on team performance, monitored twice daily, with results posted publicly for everyone in the plant to see. Some of the team issues involved team members not being committed to the team's performance or working for bonuses. Were the members of the white team empowered or trapped in a control system of their own creation? The members of the white team were both empowered and trapped at Zell Communications. Although they had a control system of their own design, they ultimately became prisoners of the self-managed environment that the organization thought would liberate them to work at optimal levels. The empowerment lacked defined parameters and explicit communication from Vice President Joe Painter. Instead, it seems there were inferences made after an initial disagreement with Painter that led him to concede to the white team's decision to act without his permission. This led further to a sense of empowerment by the white team that created a feeling of importance and worth and added pressure that their contributions affected the fate of the company. The white team took this feeling and created a culture of accountability and control in order to achieve positive results. Over time, the white team created a lot of rules for its own members to adhere by without providing any leeway. Thus, the once liberating self-managed structure they sought became one that acted as a polar opposite by exercising conservative control of its team members. Employees who strongly identify with a firm are generally tougher managers for each other than hierarchical supervisors are. Do you agree or disagree with this? We agree with this statement. Conrad and Poole reference Tompkins and Cheney and the concept of conservative control, where groups who strongly identify with the organization act as controlling interests in a way that rivals or exceeds that of a traditional hierarchical management structure. Organizational climates can be very rigid, and any attempt to challenge this rigidity can be perceived as a rejection of the climate, similar to tribal mindsets that pervade many social or political issues. The idea of upsetting the status quo is already daunting, but it's even more difficult when you, as a member of a self-managed team, theoretically agree to the established ground rules. It's much simpler to question edicts that were handed down from a supervisory figure, even if you do not choose to actively challenge the position of the hierarchy. Why might employees entrusted with managing their own team develop the strong surveillance and control system over other members that they did at Zell? Zell was prone to developing a system of employees' surveillance due to the aggressive deadlines set forth by the various teams. In order for the aggressive targets to be met, the team required concerted effort by all members of the team. For example, perception of one team member's late arrival to work and the impact it had on deadlines and team morale lent way for a system of tracking hours and attendance for the entire team. Stitchco already established a system of performance surveillance prior to the implementation of the team's system. Because teams were assigned based on past performance, there was no motivation to do more than expected, as the team was going to be compensated at a flat rate based on overall team performance. The team system had minimal impact on employee culture and motivation. as some employees were quick to realize they would be fairly compensated for only completing 80% of the work. Due to the pre-existing standard of performance surveillance, Stitchco teams had little or no motivation to implement additional performance surveillance tools. Why were the machinists able to avoid the cycle that appeared at Zell? The machinists were able to avoid the cycle that appeared at Zell as the company was structured differently. The company had different environmental and cultural factors that made up the dynamics that prevented the same situation from occurring. One of the main differences was pay structure and the responsibility divide. Is it possible for the white team to break out of the spiral of control it had fallen into? It is possible for the white team to break out of the spiral of control it had fallen into. The white team could have stepped back from their self-imposed rules and restrictions and focus on the purpose, goals, and use management or mediation techniques that would prevent the spiral of control. Using some techniques such as scouting or scanning activities, liaison, or buffering activities in some combinations to build a strategy for a successful self-managing team. What recommendations do you have for how it could do this? Focusing on 3 principles for team effectiveness in most self-managing teams we would recommend using always is 1. A clear goal, 2. Standards of excellence, and 3. External support. These 3 principles help tie in the main problems both companies ended up facing, and if a strategy and focus was implemented to harness these 3 principles, the possibility for success would be much higher. 8 principles for team effectiveness. Increase and fix these following issues. Non-participating leadership. Team members fail to use a democratic leadership style that involves and engages team members. Poor decision-making. Infrequent and poor communication. Lack of mutual trust, inability to manage conflict, lack of goal clarity, relationship issues, and negative atmosphere. The issues noted in this presentation include the implementation of well-intentioned teamwork production methods in organizations which lack a culture that provides self-worth. The needs of employees in these organizations include cultural environments that instill open dialogue and a level of transparency. The needs referenced allude to a thirst for a sense of empowerment that provides feelings of importance and self-worth. Employees want to feel that their efforts and contributions directly affect the fate of the company and its goals. In an all-too-common sense, organizations share a similar struggle when attempting to implement a quantifiable return on investment as it relates to employee engagement and motivation. Organizations must begin with creating a system to determine how they should measure the return of their efforts to motivate their employees. One examination of the organization studied contests that autonomy is a value that employees require to maintain motivation to contribute high-quality work. Through autonomy, employees feel independence and freedom to complete their assigned responsibilities. And although the purpose for work varies, employees feel they have the discretion to plan their work and choose how to complete it. One of the many growing trends in the need for cultural change is the realization that working as a team is not working alone. In today's world in which information moves quickly and customers hold more power than ever, the ways in which employees feel most productive and motivated become paramount. This shift in how organizations adapt to this growing need requires a culture which embraces values over blind obedience and gives workers the latitude to serve those who really hold the key to success of the business.